All right, welcome to round number 3. Hard hand on the draws, another close one. I'm particularly incentivized because of the Elvish Visionary. Double Azuri is kind of interesting. I feel like my opponent has been playing. I think I've played against them, and I think they've played like controlling-ish decks, but that aside, I don't know. I think this hand's close, but I think I'm going to end up shipping it. I feel like there's just too much likelihood that we brick. I mean, we get 2 draws before missing a land is really bad. Or 3 draws? Yeah, we're on the draw. So I take my draw, and I take my Elvish Visionary draw, assuming that my Mystic doesn't die. All right, we'll try it. It's definitely dangerous. Depending on Elvish Mystic, I feel like it's just a mistake a large portion of the time. Blind, at least. There's just a lot of matchups where it can't really do that. This is one of those hands where I think it's like I can bend it to where it seems okay that I keep. Like I can keep it, but what's the incentive? I do feel like there is some incentive here, right? We have the top end that we're looking for, so there's definitely some incentive. Yes, if this hand works out, it has some incentive, but it's not like one of our better hands, right? It's not like I have, you know, Heritage Druid, Nettle Sentinel, Elvish Mystic, right? That has a lot of incentive. If I hit my second land, all of a sudden we're super explosive. We have a lot to offer, but this is like, if I hit my second land, I'm functional, but am I really that explosive? No, I'm not really that explosive, but I'm still plenty proactive. I still have something to do. Heritage Druid, it's not bad, but certainly not a land. But if I do hit a land, then our hand gets a lot better. If this lives, which it did. So now all I need is a land, which we hit. So it looks like we're going to be waiting on the Visionary, I think. Maybe I'm actually supposed to cast Visionary here. Or maybe I'm supposed to cast a Azuri rather than Archdruid. Since I have a backup Azuri. My opponent didn't use a removal spell with my Elvis Mystic, but that doesn't mean they don't have one. They could even have Kolaghan's Command. I think I'm supposed to run Azuri out there. It's very likely that whatever 3-drop I play here dies, which is why it's possible I'm supposed to play Visionary. Yeah, they do have a K command. We'll pitch Visionary. So this way this game's played out leads me to believe my opponent is removal light. That doesn't mean they don't have something like an additional K command, but it does seem like they're a bit removal light. All right, so I can play both of these and still have the ability to regenerate my Archdruid. Obviously, Azuri can still die, but at least we'll get to keep the Archdruid. The best part about this too is that we've put our opponent on a removal light hand, right? They didn't kill Elvish Mystic Gorilla, which doesn't necessarily mean they don't have it, but a lot of people want to do that as quickly as possible. And then the following turn, they K command, which is like kind of clunky, but obviously the most mana efficient use for their turn, so still not that strange. If they have another K command, they can't even K command this because of the Archdruid, and they can't K command the Archdruid because we have the ability to regen shield it. We'll definitely sack this. So yeah, this looks like it's going to be panning out for us. I guess I just wait. Just trying to think if there's any reason I would want to regen something in response to the fetch, but darn it. A fatal push really ruins our plan there. I feel like I would definitely trade here. All right. I think I send these both to Liliana, but this game is obviously taking a serious turn for the worse. We're going to have a hard time winning this one without some good top decks now. This ooze is going to get humongous and be really hard for me to break through. We still have some time, but it's not good. You know what? I think I should have held this. It'd be very easy for my opponent to have another K command. I mean, my best draw is an instant anyway. They could easily have more Lilianas, but the land doesn't really matter that much. Pendelhaven not doing a lot of work here. With the Liliana in play, there's no reason to sandbag that. Unfortunately, we're flooding a bit here. We need to draw some of those relevant 4s or lead the Stampedes. Tarmogoyf. Do I trade both of my creatures for an ooze? Not when there's another ooze. I wonder if I would have done this. It's too bad there's not a spot where I could like double block and Pendelhaven this before it would die, but can't do that. I wonder if I would have double blocked if my opponent would have waited. I think I might have. But yeah, we look pretty dead from here. We basically have to draw like mono 4s to have a shot, and even still it would be a struggle. Sack that, I suppose. I mean, they're able to dump like all their mana into these oozes, and they're just gonna have 3 monsters. So that's effectively 12. Yeah, I mean, I guess I just have to wait. Yeah, it's going to be tough to beat Jund without... I mean, this hand almost did it. We almost beat Jund without those cards, but it's going to be tough to beat Jund without Bloodbraid Elf and Collected Company and Lead the Stampede. Those are going to be your key cards here. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to play Shaman of the Pack. pretty dead here. If my opponent had eaten a couple more creatures with Scavenging Ooze, I would be just dead to the attacks, but I can technically live here, but then I'm just on no outs anyway. I don't really have any blocks to make. I guess they just wanted to make both their oozes 5/5s, was their thought. But I'm on triple chump block here, so I don't really have any outs, so we'll just pack it in. And move on to the next game. Elvish Champion can be good here, but I'm not super enthused about it in a matchup where my opponent's plan is to kill all of my creatures. Definitely want the additional Lead the Stampedes and Shaper's Sanctuaries. Other notables include like Decays. Scavenging Ooze can be kind of a problem. Tarmogoyf, a little less so, but Elvish Champion could sort of help with that as well. So I think I'd rather start with Elvish Champion before Decay, which I'm not even sure I want. And Relics are a consideration for things like Tarmogoyf. They also weaken the power of something like Scavenging Ooze, but aren't proactive. So I'm a little less excited about them. Nettle Sentinels can definitely come out here, as well as the Elves of Deep Shadow. And like I said, I think other than that, I'm interested in this Elvish Champion a bit. There's not really a lot I want to cut. I'll probably cut a Dork here. And at that point, you break it down to personal preference. Are you a sword kind of person, or are you a spells kind of person? Are you a Mystic fan or an Elf fan, Llanowar Elves fan? I think I'm gonna favor the Mystic today. We'll go 4 Mystic, 3 Llanowar Elves. But you know, that's a personal choice that you got to be ready to make. Yeah, I think this is where we're gonna be. Could cut Dwynen's Elite, but multiple bodies against Jund is great. It's just a little bit more of a liability. It's easier for your opponent to interact with. This hand is so sweet, but land light. Saber Sanctuary is just so good. I think there's a lot of upside for keeping this hand. It's definitely not explosive, but that's not what I need in this matchup. I need to be able to grind, and a lot of I can definitely fall behind early and then die to like tempo goyfs, which is the risk here. But with Shaper Sanctuary, it's hard for my opponent to deal with my Llanowar Elves. No, that's a way to do it. I don't like leading on Llanowar Elves here, though. It's too likely for it to die, and if I go Shaper Sanctuary first, it can't be discarded, and then it's also annoying for my opponent to deal with because of the Shaper Sanctuary. Now, even if I draw the land, assuming they take Llanowar Elves, even if I draw the land, I'm going to be in a little bit of trouble here. I think there's definitely a strong argument for mulliganing this hand, but the upside is super, super high with multiple companies in Shaper Sanctuary. Yeah, Llanowar Elves does hit the bin. Okay. Well, I'm receiving full punishment for keeping this hand. Certainly losing Llanowar Elves to a discard spell, which is not unlikely. Followed by drawing 3rd 4-drop is sad. Yeah, followed by Tarmogoyf. Yep. I mean, this is not a like uncommon Jund draw by any means, so there's really not a lot to complain about here. This is the risk that we took. Fortunately, I did hit a land. This is one of those decisions. A lot of times, when I take like a calculated gamble, there'll be a lot of times where it doesn't work out, or it does, and I'll say, well, I would do it again. This is not necessarily one of those times. I don't know. I'm not like certain that keeping this hand was correct. I think it's easily a trap, but it is really, really close. I think it's one of those risks where like, well, that's pretty good for me. It's potentially worth it, but it's hard to say. I still get this from my opponent's side of things. Getting to grow the Goyf by instant and land is certainly great. So I understand the appeal there. pretty sure I'm supposed to do this rather than Elvish Champion. Set up for these companies. Treetop. Yeah, definitely taking the 4 here. This way, our opponent can kill our Elvish Mystic, but then we'll draw a card and be more likely to hit our land. If they do kill our Elvish Mystic and I brick on land, I'm going to be in a rough spot. Like I said, it's easy to fall behind against the Tempo Goyf, which is definitely what happened thus far. But we were able to sneak out some lands here. So we might still get to these companies in time. We could still easily get like angered out of this game, so that's definitely something to keep in mind about, like, we need to be sort of cautious about the timing of our companies. Oh, excuse me, I guess I needed to stretch. Company on our main phase, for example, is just not really going to be something we're going to want to do in this matchup, I think. And we might be less incentivized to company in combat as well. Twinen's Elite. Yeah, I think we just happily pass here. No sudden shock. That would be not so good for us. So I think this is another spot where I just happily take 4. Yeah, there's like some outside cases where I'm happy to block after hitting stuff off of company. I'm not even actually sure there is. Maybe Twinen's Elite, I'm happy to chump block with a token. But I think I'd rather just wait. I am definitely a bit worried about... I probably should have grabbed Mystic, Shaman of the Pack, but that's okay. I'm a bit worried about Anger the Gods here. And because of that, I think I'm just going to leave up company again, rather than do anything. Again, I could have like a pretty exciting main phase here where I'm like, you know, Twinen's Elite into stuff, into company, into more stuff. Like, I could really spill our hand here. But I think it's just way better to wait. I'm contemplating Twinen's Elite still being worth it, but now they can kill my Heritage Druid in response, and then I don't get to company, and then it's just like, yeah, I guess it's just, I don't think it's really worth the risk. Oh, they have a Treetop on D. So it's just Shaman. And a Raging Ravine, of course. Both the same size, but I'm like talking about the Twinens while I'm like clicking on my combat, but yeah, definitely just want to attack with the Shaman here. It's not like there's any bluffs to sell or anything along those lines. Of course, our Collected Company and Elvish Champion are still known from that Brutality turn. But Dwynen's Elite and Lead the Stampede are in fact mystery cards. Thoughtseize or Brutality into Anger would be like worst case scenario here. Other land, definitely not worst case scenario. But I really like taking it slow here to play around Anger, particularly because we have the Elvish Champion. If we don't have a bunch of our guys die this turn, we could easily present lethal next turn through Company Elvish Champion. If we do have a bunch of guys, we're going to draw a bunch of cards. Outside of just getting this board angered, which means we just float a mana from Elvish Mystic and get to Company, and we got through the anger without losing too many more resources. Raging Ravine getting in there. So this means we're going to want to in combat Company to inform our block here. Anger is no longer a possibility, and we do have to block. Take the things we can take, and chump block with a token. Two, 3, 4, 5, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So we have lethal if nothing happens to our Elvish Champion. These things up front are free effectively. So we'll do that. If they have removal spell off, if they have like fetch, swamp, fatal push, untap, anger, so be it. I guess I want to be able to beat land. They could even, if they have land, if they have fetch, swamp, push. 3, 6, 7, 8. Okay, if they have fetch, swamp, push, land, they have 3 attackers next turn. How do I present lethal with leaving the most guys back? I mean, I obviously get to leave this back. Then I can additionally leave another thing back, right? This is still 4, 7, 9, 11. So I can leave 2 blockers back and then not die. Okay, great. So I guess in that case, I do it like this to leave back this. I don't want to give I don't want to make Liliana. No, Liliana would still not be an out. Whatever. I might as well just leave this back to chump block instead of this. So we're still attacking for lethal. Oh, I was counting. They still beat me with fetch, swamp, push, land, animate. I was counting this like it wasn't going to die. Definitely use this. Don't have mana for that. But this is like the most conservative attack I can make while still producing lethal, so. Yep. Probably dead now. Dead to additional removal spell or land. What could I have done? How could I have played that turn differently? I mean, I could have looked for Shaman of the Pack off of Lead the Stampede. It's not really better. Yep. Can't beat that. That's unfortunate. I could have just not win for the kill. But it has to be, it could also be bolt, fetch Mountain Bolt. Yeah, maybe I'm just not supposed to make them have it. Maybe I'm supposed to take a conservative turn. Leave back a bunch of blockers. I mean, how do I lose there? I lose to anger, right? That's what I was trying to play around. So I guess it's just a decision about whether or not you want to lose to anger or removal spell. It did very much feel like anger, but perhaps that's just because that would be the worst case. Although double removal spells has to be more likely than anger, right? I mean, they probably run like 2 angers in their board, which means double removal spell has to be significantly more likely. They haven't really cast any this turn, this game. Shaper Sanctuary certainly incentivized them to wait on removal spells. So I think I'm probably not supposed to go for it that turn. And maybe this is hindsight bias. Maybe it's too strong a dose of hindsight bias, but I think it makes a lot of sense for my opponent to have multiple spot removal spells in their hand in this case. They haven't really been wanting to cast them because of the Sanctuary. So it makes sense they'd be rotting in their hand there. So I think I'm supposed to take a conservative line, have lots of blockers. Obviously, Treetop kind of interacts with that a little bit, but we likely still win that game. So I think... And anger beats us that way. We can't beat anger if we do it that way, but I think that was probably the way to go. Either way, I will see you in the next round in just a moment.